that he has officially signed with the Los Angeles Lakers. Yes, Andre Drummond is a member of the LA Lakers. This is a guy who was drafted by the Detroit Pistons in 2012, the 9th overall pick, two-time All-Star, four-time NBA All-Leader in rebounding, led the NBA in rebounding 4 times, was a third-team All-NBA player in the 2015-2016 season. Hasn't played a game since February 12th with the Cleveland Cavaliers. They basically just sat him on the sidelines and said, hey, we're going to trade you, so we're not going to play you. We don't want your trade value to diminish. They weren't able to find a trading partner. They agreed to mutually buy out to the buyout, and the Lakers apparently pursued him extremely hard. LeBron, AD were some of the notable stars on the Lakers to recruit him heavily, and now he's a member of the Purple and Gold. This is a guy that this season with the Cavs in 25 games, 17.5 points, 13.5 rebounds, 1.6 steals per game. This is a guy for his career who's averaged 14 points, 14 rebounds, and 1.5 blocks per game. Now, I know that if you look in a vacuum at this buyout and this signing for the Lakers, is Andre Drummond going to make a huge impact for this current Lakers roster? I don't know. With LeBron and AD out, he's not going to jumpstart their offense. He's not going to ignite their offense. But I will say this. When LeBron and Anthony Davis come back, now you're looking at a complete roster, a complete team that finally is filling that void. All season long, the biggest impediment to the Lakers, the most glaring issue, the most glaring deficiency on their roster was the center position. Marc Gasol just wasn't giving it to him, fouling early, and now you've got a guy who can actually anchor the middle of the paint, who can rebound the ball effectively, who can defend at a high level, and now he's joining the Lakers. I mean, now the Lakers finally have someone who can be tasked with the assignment of having to try and defend Nikola Jokic, the Joel Embiids of the world, Yusuf Nurkic, DeAndre Ayton, some of these elite bigs and centers in the NBA. Now, finally, the Lakers have someone who can actually match up with them. Gasol couldn't do it. Anthony Davis would reluctantly do it for only stretches of time. And Montrezl Harrell is too small. And so this Lakers team that was already so effective at rebounding the basketball now just added a 4-time rebounding champ. And this is how the NBA has totally revamped itself, because the priorities of players have changed. Players have always valued winning. They've always valued winning. They're competitors. They love to win. But players didn't always prioritize winning. And this is the biggest difference in the NBA right now. You look at guys in the past, Carmelo Anthony, perfect example. In 2011, was traded from the Denver Nuggets to the New York Knicks. He had an opportunity, and he re-signed with the Knicks that summer. He had an opportunity to join LeBron, to join Dwayne Wade in the Miami Heat and form a big three down in South Beach. And instead, he opted to sign with the Knicks because they would give him more money. And he thought genuinely that he could win in the Big Apple. But was he really prioritizing winning? And I would argue no. Because if you're really prioritizing winning, then it's a no-brainer. You join LeBron, you join Anthony Davis, and you sign with the Miami Heat. And instead, Chris Bosh ended up filling that role, and they became the big three. But the thing is, now we're in a new age of player empowerment, and players are starting to position themselves better to land in winning environments and winning destinations, perhaps better than they ever have in the past. Perhaps better than they ever have, because the reality is the players still want their money. They're still chasing money at times, but now winning can sometimes outweigh the money. Perfect example, Blake Griffin was just playing with the Detroit Pistons, a losing franchise this season. And now he joins the Brooklyn Nets. Chasing a ring, sure. We can all acknowledge that. But he turned his situation overnight from a dire situation to now competing for a championship. Reggie Jackson last year, coincidentally also with the Detroit Pistons, signed with the LA Clippers after being bought out by the Pistons. Now, sure, the Clippers didn't end up winning a championship, but that was a winning environment. And so he gave himself that opportunity to now perhaps win a championship with the Clippers. Again, it didn't happen last year. We'll see if it happens this year. But now we're seeing again, Andre Drummond, a perfect example, was playing with the Cleveland Cavaliers that didn't necessarily have a tremendous future, tremendous direction at the time. Then they started making all these trades for an abundance of centers for Jared Allen and all these guys. And I like Darius Garland and I like Colin Sexton. But Andre Drummond wasn't a part of their future. And he already was disappointed and frustrated by the fact that he wasn't playing. And now that he was bought out, he looked at the market, he viewed the landscape, and he said, okay, which team can I be an impact player? And I'm going to touch on the Brooklyn Nets in just a second, but the Lakers were the most obvious place for him to go because this is a guy who could come in and immediately provide a significant impact right away. Be the starting center for a team that's contending in not only the Western Conference, but trying to defend their NBA championship. And this is a Lakers team, mind you, that was already the fourth best rebounding team in the NBA. This is with Anthony Davis missing over 6 weeks. This is with LeBron, Kuzma, Montrezl Harrell being your leading rebounders. And they're the fourth best rebounding team already. Not to mention, they're the number 2 defense in the league. Andre Drummond, 4-time rebounding champ, rated the 13th best defensive player in the NBA, according to Basketball Reference. So now when you look at this Lakers roster that is much more complete, now you say to yourself, okay, if they're matching up with the Brooklyn Nets, if they can crash the glass, they can rebound the ball effectively, defend at a high level, now you can rely on LeBron and AD and that star power to carry you over the top. But prior to Andre Drummond, there was a massive void right in the middle of this team that was not addressed. And unfortunately, Marc Gasol is glacially slow. Montrezl Harrell is undersized. And they were feeling the absences of JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard. Those two provided a huge spark and were a big reason why the Lakers ended up winning last year. And so now they finally have that missing piece. And in my mind, a guy that can really return the Lakers to that big status. Last year, we talked all the time about how big this team is, how much length they possess. And Andre Drummond, whether he's 6'11", whether he's 6'10", 6'11", 7 feet, doesn't matter. This is a big body that can anchor the paint, and this is a perfect fit for both he and the Lakers. So major upgrade and addition if you're LA. Good job by Rob Pelinka, Frank Vogel, the entire staff for recruiting this guy, because this is a major acquisition, especially when you just saw your counterpart, the Clippers, sign your former teammate in Rajon Rondo, which was a major play for them.